So you got to stand up to the bully, right? I think that if we immediately caved in to Trump, he's just going to raise the stakes and demand more. So you got to actually
Reuse.
push back. And as part of that pushback, step two is you need to be smart and set your targets so the American political decision makers and allies of Trump feel it back in their home districts.
Does anybody really know what is the goal here? What is I mean, if you look at it as a long-term play from somebody that only has 4 years to do something, it's kind of a strange approach because the way that his plan works is not overnight, right? It's not in 3 months, all of a sudden our manufacturing base will be on the other side of the border, right? It's not like all of a sudden they're going to have all these forests cut down and lumber that they can use for construction right away, right? It's not like they can replace all this everything that they rely on us for right away, but it feels like they're willing to feel the pain for a little bit until they figure it out, which is kind of scary. And then what's even scarier is it feels like Canada is digging their heels in and saying like, I don't think so, guys. This, we don't like this, and we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight for what's right here, which is scary because we're David and they're Goliath. Isn't that the case?
Although David won that one.
David
David won
won.
that one.
Yeah.
So Darryl, you put some really good points on the table, and I think your thinking is very clear on this. There's a lot I can say, so let me try to make three main points, and then I can come back later to how I think Canada should play this. Number one, Trump wants to bring manufacturing jobs back to the states, the heartland, and these are states like Michigan, and Pennsylvania that he swung back to the Republican fold. So he wants to deliver on that. At the same time, he also keeps his two measures of success. Like, TK is going to look at transactions, going to look at leads, right? His two measures really have been in the campaign, what's happening in the Dow Jones stock market, and number two, where's inflation? And the problem is, if you put tariffs on Canada, it's going to cause, because we're so closely integrated with the Americans, disruption that will drive up prices. And you've already seen that the stock market got pretty rattled. So two of his numbers on his scoreboard went down. I bet you that's part of his early reversals. He was permanent when it comes to tariffs on auto parts. Number three, the real target here for Trump is China, right? China that's not playing fair. They've undermined Canada as well as the States. He'd like to see more jobs in the States coming from manufacturing where the Chinese have benefited. So I was actually down in Washington, D.C. when Premier Ford was down there. We met with Americans, and I heard two things. Number one, the Americans that we talked to, the Republicans, don't understand why Canada's in the targets. They say we should join together and set our trade targets on China. They're the ones that are breaking the rules and stealing the jobs. Number two, this is the tougher part, Darryl. They said, we agree that you're not the right target, but we're afraid to speak out right now. They didn't exactly say they're afraid, but they didn't want to jump on President Trump when he's on a roll and very popular among Republicans. The term they use is they don't want to get primaried, right? Replaced by another Trump loyalist. I think that will break. I feel optimistic, and I'm happy to talk more about what I think Canada should do in the meantime.
And so, what do you feel Canada's position is? Do you think that right now this is something that is worth fighting for, or do you think we should be more amenable to whatever negotiations they're offering?
Yeah, I see a three-step plan here. Number one, often people will say that when there's a bully in the playground, you stand up to the bully. There's an alternative. You join with the bully and pick on somebody smaller. And that's why, TK, I think we should send our Navy to Greenland and Panama and take them.
Panama's now controlled by
BlackRock,
BlackRock, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Greenland's right next to us. I mean, come on. And if Santa's not in Canada, he's in Greenland. Anyway, thanks for laughing. I don't know if we can still make jokes in a serious situation, but I like that one. So you got to stand up to the bully, right? I think that if we immediately caved into Trump, he's just going to raise the stakes and demand more. So you got to actually push back. And as part of that pushback, step two is you need to be smart and set your targets so the American political decision makers and allies of Trump feel it back in their home districts. So that means we do increase tariffs. We do look at other impacts on Americans and target them to some of the key decision makers in Congress. That's why bourbon is always banned, not just because, it's liquor and we don't really need it, although sometimes I feel I do. I do like my bourbons. I mean,
Yeah,
that was
me too.
Senator Mitch McConnell, Kentucky. So that was a key player in the Senate. So
Mm.
you need to actually give some impetus to the American decision makers to say, hey, I'm losing jobs. Prices are going up in my home district. I'm getting beaten up when I'm back home from Washington, D.C. And then they have more of an incentive to raise their voice and say, let's call this off with Canada and, go after the real bad guys.
Hmm.
And then number three, you need to figure out what that deal is going to be because you got to give Trump a win. That's his character, right? So what can you give that's a win to him is very visible for the Americans, but still will benefit us here in Canada. So this is where I'm guessing things are going to go. We're going to actually start tearing down more barriers, and we really should. We have artificial barriers in Canada that drive up the cost of agricultural goods, basic foods. And, if we allow more competition, more choice, it's pretty hard to afford groceries these days. I think it's actually good for Canadians at the end of the day. We should have more competition. I'd love it if there's more American Airlines or British Airlines or what have you.
Banks.
It gave me some choice,
Phone
right?
companies.
Yeah, we need more
There you go. You
American
named it.
banks. Yeah.
Phone companies, another one, banks. So, allowing more choice. Trump gets a win because Americans have more business opportunities. Canadians get a win because we get more choice and lower cost at the end of the day. I think it's smart for us to toughen the border. We let too many characters into North America who actually want to commit crimes or destroy the country. Immigration's always been an important source, for us for jobs and investment. But surely to goodness, we can do a better job at stopping people in who want to attack the Americans or Canadians alike. So stronger, more coordinated immigration policy, and then do more in defense, right? I mean, Canada punched above its weight during World War I, World War II in Korea. We had that reputation, but we've really let our military spending slide, slacking off and letting the Americans cover for us. We're down at the bottom of the pack in with Slovenia in NATO, for goodness sakes. That's not something to be proud of. Bit of a long answer there, but I see a package like that, gentlemen, that we can put on the table that's actually good for Canadians, safer border, doing more for defense, lowering costs, creating jobs in Canada. And it's also something Trump can call for a win. That's where I'm hoping it ends up at the end of the day.
Are you looking for the best merch store on the planet? Well, we got the shit for you. Coming in at low prices where we barely make any money off of whatsoever, you can get the greatest real estate merchandise on this platform. Just look at this very flamboyant man putting on this great stuff. He looks great, he's dancing great, and boy does he look sexy in that merchandise. I tell you, buy this for anybody, you buy this for yourself. You will be not only repping the greatest Canadian real estate podcast in this world, but you will also be looking hella good doing it.